All right, hello everyone. Today we are going to be using some leaves to make leaf texture rubbings. Now, texture is the way something feels. And when you feel the leaves, you can feel the bumpiness of the leaf veins and the stems. And we are going to be able to use that to create our artwork. Now, before we start doing the rubbing part, you're actually going to want to get something ready. I'm using an old yogurt cup here, but it's a good idea to find an old marker to do this, or you can use food coloring, but you'll need an adult to help you with that. But what I'm actually doing here, this marker wasn't really working anymore, so I put a tiny bit of water in the bottom of the cup. You really don't want a lot of water. And then I just let the old marker sit in there, and this has probably been sitting for about 30 minutes. So I would do this before you start doing the rubbing part. But it's just sitting in there, and what's happening is all the leftover ink inside the marker is actually coming out, and it's creating a nice colored water that's kind of like a liquid watercolor. So this is kind of an easy way to make your own liquid watercolors. And again, food coloring works as well. You could put a couple drops of food coloring in water if you don't have an old marker at home. But just don't use a lot of water, because the more water you use, the less color it becomes. So I did this, and I'm just going to kind of set it aside. Now, as far as the leaves that you've found, the goal is to find smaller leaves. The big ones can look really cool, but they're actually pretty hard to do a texture rubbing with, because you have to go so far out. And you can see even on this one that the leaf is starting to crumble here. So I don't recommend these big ones. As fun as they are, they're not great for this. Using the smaller ones is going to be a little bit easier. Now for the paper, I'm using a cardstock paper. It's a little bit thicker. You can use copy paper too. It just has a tendency to move a little bit more on you. But whatever you can find at home, if you have a white construction paper, you could use that as well. All right, so I'm going to start with just one leaf at a time. I'll start with this smaller one here. You're going to put this leaf under the paper. Now, there's a side of the leaf that's a little bit smoother and a side that's a little bit bumpier. This is the underside of the leaf, and that's where you can really see the veins. You want that to be up. You're not going to get as good of a texture from this smoother side. So I'm going to lift my paper up. I'm going to put that leaf down. And then I'm going to kind of pay attention to where it's at under my paper and feel for it. I think it's right over here. Now, the crayons I'm using, you can see, don't have a wrapper. So make sure you're using old crayons for this, because they cannot have a wrapper, and you cannot use the end of the crayon. You actually have to set the crayon down first, and then you're going to use your pinch hold to pinch the crayon. You don't want to hold it like this, because then you end up using the end and it doesn't work. You've got to use the side of the crayon and pinch the top of it with your pinching grip. And then you're going to go back and forth. You don't want to go too fast. If you go too fast, then it can actually be harder. So take your time. And I go over it a few times just to get it nice and dark. Okay, and now you can see the leaf. All right, so now I'm going to lift that up. I can use the same leaf again. I'm going to put it down over here. I can change colors whenever I want to. Just make sure I set the crayon down first and then use my pinch hold. All right, so there's another one. And the more I go over it, you can see the darker it gets. All right, so now I'm going to switch leaves and try a different one. I'm going to try this one. So I'm going to set my leaf down, make sure it's bumpy side up, put the paper over top, kind of feel for it with my fingers so I know where it's at. I'm going to use an orange crayon this time. So set it down, pinch it, and hold it. And try to find the whole leaf. Don't stop like this, because part of the leaf is missing. You want to find all the edges. And it's okay that there's more crayon around it. That's not a big deal. Just make sure you can find the whole leaf. And it looks like my leaf moved a little bit on me. I can actually kind of see the tip twice. That's okay. That just means that it slid a little bit. I'm going to use this leaf again. I'll do it with this gold color. Sometimes if you can see the stem sticking out, it helps to kind of hold it down, but notice my holding hand is flat on my paper, and I'm using this space between my finger and my thumb to use for the rubbing so that it doesn't move around on me, because it can move. If you're having trouble with it moving, you might want to ask someone for help, and that person could hold things for you while you do the rubbing. All right, so you want to fill up your paper with lots of leaves. Right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd say try to do at least 6 rubbings. You can use the same color more than once if you want. So far I've used different colors, but I could always go back and maybe use my red again, because I do like the red a lot. All right, so there's that one. I like that leaf. I think I'm gonna do it again over here. And I'm gonna use that orange color again. All right, there it is. Okay, so I've got it on here 6 times. If I want to do more than 6, I can definitely do more than 6. When I look at my paper here, it feels like I need one more leaf over here. So I'm going to try a new one. Here's a new one. I'm going to put it down so it's kind of right under it right there. Oh, I didn't make sure it was bumpy. Yep, okay, bumpy side is up. I'm going to use my yellow over here. All right. So now that I've filled my paper up, I'm going to go back and get that cup. Hopefully you've got a lot of color in there, whether it's the food coloring or the marker. And then I need a brush. If you don't have a brush, you could probably use like a cotton ball and soak it up and kind of use that to paint with. But I'm going to use my brush here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this colored water over my leaves. And the crayon, you can see, actually pushes this water off of it. So my leaf rubbings are still gonna show up even after I paint over them. So I'm just gonna kind of fill up the rest of my paper here with my colored water. Now, if you wanna use watercolors, you can also do this with watercolors. So I could show you here with a little bit of blue. Watercolors work the same way, but if you use too much of the paint and not enough water, it does cover up your design. So you gotta be kind of careful with that. That's why I prefer to use the colored water, because then it doesn't make the crayon disappear. It just goes in between the crayon spaces. So then you just want to finish up painting your paper. Make sure you paint all the way to the edges, and then you will have your finished artwork. All right, I hope you have a great time doing this.